The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Film Foundations, the collaborative show between Weirding Way Media and Someone's Favorite Productions. I am one of your co-hosts, Ryan Verrill from Someone's Favorite Productions.
And I am your other co-host, Chris Dashy from the Culture Cast and other places on the internet where I put my hat out for change and beg for it.
On this show, we ask and answer 4 questions about a given topic that is surrounding an actor, director, microgenre, or tonight, a weird take on a franchise, or maybe microgenre, one of the two. We are covering the adapted works of one Stephen King, but the reason we are doing this is because we are joined by an esteemed guest and colleague of mine, Miss Erica Shultz, one of the 2 hosts of the Unsung Horrors podcast, but perhaps most importantly for our discussion tonight, the author of one of the best books ever to be conceived, The Sweetest Taboo, an unapologetic guide to child kills in film. Erica, welcome to our grandstand.
Thank you for having me.
I, first of all, will wholeheartedly give my regrets to everybody listening to this in the future, because you will likely not be able to purchase this book at the moment because it is sold out as of some period of time between recording this and when this is going up. Erica, your book was wildly successful, and I want to say thank you for making it because it is gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank Haunt Love. He's the one who made it pretty. So
he did. I can't really argue with that, but you are the one that gave it substance. And of course, everybody listening to this is going to go, what the hell, a book about kids dying in movies? Why did you write it?
I mean, there's a few different reasons. The easy answer is I got bullied into doing it. But the bigger picture answer is just wanting to have some sort of reaction to a part of film culture that's been particularly frustrating for me, and that's that people are overly sensitive about everything. And, you know, there's some things I understand that, you know, trigger warnings should happen, but it just got to a point where I felt like everything was like, well, you can't watch this because of that, and other people shaming people for liking certain films that have certain elements in them. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, this is a reaction to that. You know, the pendulum has swung so far to the right. It's like, can we just get it back to the center where people just watch what they like what they like, hate what they hate, and everyone can just move along their merry way. I know my book's not for everyone. I know that some people probably think it's horrific that I wrote a book about that and that I think it's funny, but the book's not for them. And the book is for those people who have an open mind, and maybe we'll start thinking about, like, yeah, there is a different way to look at a subject matter like this.
With the whole pendulum swinging idea, of course, you faced some adversities just getting the book printed. Can you share some of what happened there?
It was mostly like I had to self-publish. I reached out to a number of publishers and either got crickets or outright no's. Even when I got to the printing phase, I had printers back out on me, so I ended up having to change at the last minute. I didn't really get any nasty messages. I only got one, which I'm still disappointed. I really wanted to get more nasty messages from people about the book, but So far, no.
Maybe if you had written a book about dogs dying in movies.
I would never. I would
Right?
send a nasty message to someone who wrote that book. What the fuck?
That's what I was wondering. Like, how did you not get that much pushback, given that, like, I thought that this was, like, the second worst thing to do in movies short of killing animals?
Yeah, I think that because it probably just stayed in the circle of, like, genre film people who can appreciate something like this, like the people
Who don't fucking care, in fact, whether or not a kid dies in a movie.
or they celebrate it like me. Yes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, broadly, I mean, like, nobody's getting on their soapbox and screaming about it the way I'm sure you assumed, as I would assume many other people do, for whatever fucking reason. Be it because they want to, or feel like they have to, or whatever, right?
Yeah, or they just simply have no separation from movies and reality, which is another frustrating point. Like, people, they're fucking movies. Like, this is not real. It's okay to watch this, to enjoy this. That's it. That's all there is to it. Like, movies are supposed to be an escape. Like, let them be that.
How dare you use logic, though?
I know, right? I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, angry internet.
We need to be done with this podcast right now, because this is an anti-logic space. I just want to be angry. I just want to get upset. And if I'm not upset, am I really living? Am I really living if I'm not just upset in a permanent state of agitation? I don't know.
The funny thing is about all of this is that the cover is clearly stated so that you couldn't mix that up. And then even better is all the kills that you wrote about in the book. Most of them are so obviously fake. It's not anything that you would get outraged about.
Yeah, obviously fake. I would hope they're not killing real children in the process.
No, but even
no children were actually killed here. I hope not.
Obviously, Chris, but the vast majority of them are so just not like realistically filmed. It's not something that you could even get in an outrage about. There's a hand over the last 10 or 15 years that have been pretty outrageous. Like, we talked about the Lars von Trier film when you were, when I was talking about that on my show a little bit, but that one a little bit, is kind of fucked up because he poses the kids after he kills them. But there's a lot of things in this book that are mostly like dummy deaths or something that is a real quick switch out or something like that. Either way, the book's amazing, and I love it. I would love to see, some of these messages pour in so that you could use them on the back cover of a second printing or something.
I have to ask, though, when you were writing the book, did you write it before or after Halloween Ends came out?
I was pretty much done with it at that point, and then someone messaged me and told me about it, and I was like, fuck, because I didn't want to see it. I don't like those fucking movies. Like, so I'm
with you, but it has a funny first 10 minutes.
Oh, it does. I'll give it that.
It's like the funniest 10 minutes of a horror movie that I've ever seen. Like, that dummy falling at the end I laughed. Yeah. I don't give a shit. I laugh every time I watch it. What does that say about me?
That says you're a good person, at least in my eyes.
Thank you. A child dummy face planting into the ground and like scorpioning is definitely not something for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, on this show, we always try to encourage others to broaden their horizons on film and go down roads that they might not have before. And of course, many people have probably seen at least one or two Stephen King film adaptations along the way. But why are we covering this in relation to your book?
Well, Stephen King has a pretty big section in the back of the book. So the book is organized by chapter by method of death. So there's, vehicles, there's animal attacks, there's supernatural, there's bombs and explosions. But there ended up being so many Stephen King ones that I was like, I'm just going to give him its own section in the back of the book, and then put all of them in there, including my entire Children of the Corn section of here's all the ones that have one, here's the ones that don't have one, in case that's your motivation for watching. That's mine. So yeah, when you asked for a topic, that was part of it, but also, the title of your podcast is Film Foundations, and Stephen King horror specifically was foundational for me as a horror movie fan. So I figured the two worlds collide.
So how did you get there? What was the first one that you watched when you were younger?
I'm pretty sure the first one that I watched is probably Stand By Me, honestly. Like, I don't even think it was like an actual horror film. I don't consider Stand By Me to be a horror film. It's got horror elements, of course, but after that probably was either Christine or Carrie. I watched a lot of the Stephen King adaptations pretty early on. I was reading Stephen King books from a very young age. My mom had a lot of them on her bookshelf at home. And when I started being able to make my own decisions at the video store, and then I would see, oh, there's a Cujo movie. My child brain, my weird, immature child brain thought that they were made just for me because I didn't know anything about how movies were made at that point. I was still very young. And so, I didn't even really start paying attention to like who was behind the scenes, who was making these, like what, credits meant and all that. I mean, I knew what credits meant, but really thinking about the names behind those. And so, yeah, I think if I had to guess, I have a shit memory. You guys are going to probably learn that. Well, Ryan already knows that, but that's be my best guess. But I'm pretty sure like Carrie or Christine, possibly Cujo, one of the C's.
Are there any of these classic Stephen King films that are really highly regarded that you hate? I know that you have a lot of these takes that are antithetical to like the film Bibles across the world.
The sacred texts, as we call them, Ryan.
Yeah.
The sacred texts.
I guess I don't really care. I mean, I remember watching it, the original adaptation, and not really being the biggest fan of it. And then I saw the first new one that came out, and I was like, yeah, I don't care about that. I'm just, I
knew I liked you.
Yeah, the It adaptations for me have just never really worked. Was it The Dark Tower that had Idris Elba? Yeah.
Poor guy can't be in a franchise movie that doesn't suck for the most part.
I know.
I did say highly regarded though.
Well, I mean, the story.
It's regarded.
Right.
I don't know.
Series is regarded, yeah.
Whatever, Ryan, you think every movie is someone's favorite movie, so.
Ooh, got his ass. I mean, fair.
Highly regarded. I don't know. What else is highly regarded? Give me some names and I'll tell you if I like it or not. Let's do a lightning round.
Crazy thing. Pretty much everything has been. There's a few that.
The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption.
I do like Shawshank. Green Mile, fine. I think it's Morgan Freeman's voice in Shawshank. It's just so soothing. It's one of those things where it's like, I can't hate this movie. Morgan Freeman's narrating the whole thing to me.
Tim Robbins is great in that, but I still think that is simply a Morgan Freeman film.
Sure.
Overall.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish some of these would get better adaptations, I got to be honest. Like last summer I worked on Thinner, and that movie could have been so much better if it was done, I don't know, 3 years later.
I don't know that time would have made that one any better. It's one of those ones that's like almost like the trashy exploitation Stephen King one, and I kind of love it for that. I know it's like so politically incorrect now, but you just
the term gypsy being used. Trigger warning for any gypsies in the audience.
But yeah, there's I can't think of any others that I just outright. I don't think there's any that I outright hate, but I also was like looking at a Letterboxd list of adaptations, and I haven't seen a huge chunk of them. I didn't even realize how many there were until I actually sat down and looked at a list. And I was like, Jesus, I think, Chris, you were looking it up beforehand. It was like 51 adaptations or something like that. That's crazy.
51, soon to be 52 with Osgood Perkins the Monkey next year. I mean,
yeah, really?
And another Salem's Lot movie coming out before the end of this year? Like,
oh, good.
Yeah, guy. Well, we haven't seen that story adapted before.
Yeah,
by a horror maestro. On that note, you mentioned the novels. Obviously, you've clearly read quite a few of them. Are there any that have stood the test of time for you as like being your absolute favorite?
I read so many of them when I was young, and it was kind of like I read like so many of those and like just trashy like Dean Koontz novels. I just wanted to just read them all, and so I do remember. It took, and I think it was more just my sense of accomplishment because it was the longest book I had read at the time, and I was really proud of myself for finishing it. But it was The Shining, and then later I read it, and I was like, I'm so proud of myself. I finished it, and but actually, I think a lot more of his short stories I enjoy. There's one called The Long Walk that I really like, and I don't think that one's been adapted yet. But
2025 or 2026 coming soon.
Are you kidding me?
I am beyond dead fucking serious. Being adapted by Francis Lawrence. Yep.
I don't know who that is.
He directed Constantine and I Am Legend, and the critically acclaimed Water for Elephants.
Okay. Well,
that's the perfect response. Thank you.
I mean, I'm indifferent to all of that. So,
I was hoping you were a huge Water for Elephants fan.
No, but yeah, it's fine. Like the thing is like, I actually can't be mad about that because I complain all the time about things getting remade too much. And like, there's so much source material out there from short stories and novels besides Stephen King, but we're talking about King. So, I mean, at least it's something new. I'll give it that. That's my positive spin on it.
I'd love to hear it. That's so rare.
I know it doesn't happen often, and it's recorded. Fuck.
I love your energy, by the way. Somehow, even I'm like, whoa.
The big question behind Stephen King adaptations, and really all adaptations, what do you personally value in these adaptations? Does it need to be faithful to the book to be a good adaptation, or are you fine with them taking their own spin on the story as long as it's a good film?
The latter for me, because, you know, Stephen King he's a good writer, but he's not a great writer. So I think it's fine if you take some elements and change it. You know, I'm not a fan of changing certain things, like Needful Things. The kid dies in that one, but he doesn't die in the movie. Like, why would you do that?
Cowards.
Right. No, I don't necessarily feel like they need to be completely faithful. I think a lot of stuff is just, you know, source material, and a lot of stuff just doesn't adapt well, you know? So I think a smart screenwriter can take what's important from it, you know, the right characterization from it. Because I know a lot of people will, if they watch a movie first and read the book afterwards, they're picturing those people, their faces as those characters. And so if you stray too far from it, it can be frustrating if you're doing it in the movie first, book later version. Whereas I don't think it's that big of a deal if you read the book first and then watch it and are like, okay, well, they changed this and that, but that makes sense. But I know, you know, King has thoughts about some of his, you know, the adaptations of some of his works. So, but
I thought that this question was a specific thing, Ryan. Like, is this like the Shining question? That's what this feels like.
No.
But it kind of is, because like
no.
Stephen King hates the adaptation of The Shining, right? Like,
that is
notoriously so.
That's the thing that he's public about. But this is a question about all adapted works when it comes to things like this that become cult favorites or something that people hold dear from childhood. Like, a lot of us were raised reading Stephen King books, and then if you read, you know, I mean, Needful Things. If you read Needful Things when you were 11 years old, and then you finally see the adaptation when you're like 19, do you automatically go, oh, this is bad because it doesn't stick to the book? Or you just say, I mean, this is decent as a film, but I wish it was a better adaptation of the story? Or are they two separate things and you can respect them both? Like, people genuinely have hot takes on that.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have a hot take on that. I feel like it's like, just make a good movie, which seems to be very hard for people lately. But, you know,
I kind of agree. Like, I don't, look, books and TV shows and movies are three separate mediums, and the amount of time and effort needed to tell a story in those three mediums is not the same. And so then spending time getting frustrated that a movie is not like a book is kind of like, shit. It's like 2-hour long movie is not the same as 13, 14 hours worth of listening to a book or reading a book or watching an 8 to 10 hour, run of a TV show. Like, I guess my answer is I don't think there's a good way to adapt books into movies. I think it should be TV because it's a much longer narrative. I think it's depending on the thing, but like, I don't know. Can't they both be good? Can you like both of them? We here at Someone's Favorite Productions believes that every movie is someone's favorite.
I love that all three of us have been sort of infiltrated by the SFP moniker and worked with SFP, so thank you all.
I mean, it's true. I mean, hey, I don't want to badmouth The Dark Tower too much because it could be somebody's favorite movie.
It was. I guarantee Idris Elba's kid loved it for 12 minutes.
He loved all the nice things his dad was able to buy for him afterwards. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Last establishing question before we go to our main discussion. Since you don't love most modern cinema, what's your take on everybody's love for Mike Flanagan being the modern director, being able to adapt his films literally better than anyone?
Did he do Dr. Sleep?
He did.
Okay, so I saw that one because Dead Kids. But
yeah, lots of dead kids in that movie.
Yeah.
Lots.
But I honestly, I don't have an opinion about that. Like, yes, true. I don't like most modern film, but I'm going to narrow that down. I don't like most modern horror because there's plenty of like non-horror films, especially international films, that I do like. It's just, I don't have a taste for modern horror. I will say this about Mike Flanagan, that not everyone, a lot of people seem to really enjoy the work that he's doing. And he seems to, from what I've read and from what I've seen, have a genuine love for the source material. So I think that's important. But it's just one of those things that, like, modern horror and how stories are being told now, and how the films, it's hard to even call them films anymore because some people don't even shoot on film, but how they look to me now, it's just everything is so sleek and everyone's so pretty and everyone says the perfect thing and everyone has the perfect comeback and is super quippy and Dr. Sleep's not an example. This is like off tangent, but people, they'll have these sort of like Gen Z speak, but the film is taking place in the future, where it's like, why you're using modern language for this, or even in like, especially when they go backwards in time and, we're using slang from the modern. So I have plenty of problems just with like a lot of elements of modern film. So I just prefer to stay in the past when I'm choosing what to watch. But I do think, again, getting back to Flanagan, a lot of people seem to like what he's done. So good for them. I just haven't seen enough to really have an opinion about him. So I'll just, that I would leave it at that too.
I love your energy, by the way. Thank you so much. I do. I mean, like, I do, because at the same time, like, I kind of feel the same way about Mike Flanagan. Like, it's cool. New movies are nice.
I feel like Chris is on the edge of saying, if I had kids, you could kill America.
I think you'd want to see them dead at this point.
I mean, I only like to see the kids die in movies, so not real ones. That's sad.
We can film it. How's that?
No.
Oh, then it's a snuff film.
Now now it's getting weird. All right.
All right. Christy Anthony, thank you for that. Let's go to question number 1.
Hey, she was innocent, bro. How dare you?
Our first question that we always start off with, and I feel like for this topic, this is a difficult one because there could be literally like 40 correct answers for this. So for you, Erica, what do you think is the foundational title for Stephen King adapted films?
So this is tough because you also have to think about when like, or how old someone is, as like an entry point for them. Like, you're just starting into these films. How old are you? What's your sort of background? At least I think about that when I'm making recommendations. So
right.
It's hard. Like when thinking about an entry point for Stephen King, I don't think of adults though, because I do feel like many people grew up on him, like you said. So it would probably be a child like myself who would need some sort of entry point. So I think I would probably assume that if it was an adult and they are just now getting into Stephen King, that maybe they're a bit squeamish. So I think if I was going to work across the board for maybe that type of adult and a child, that it could be what mine, I think, was, and that's Stand By Me. I think that's a good entry point for Stephen King. If I were to stay on brand, I would say The Mist.
So why is Stand By Me the foundational title?
I think because it's just one of those coming of age films, and it doesn't have a supernatural element like so many of Stephen King books do. And so it doesn't take you too far out of reality. And honestly, it's just one of those films where, you can see yourself, even if you're, no matter how you identify, you can see yourself in one of each of those characters, or at least part of it, part of your own youth, especially. And so I think it's just one of those like sweet films about childhood friends going to find a dead body. And you don't get films like that anymore.
Right.
Everyone's, getting revenge for dead bodies. No one's going to go look for the dead bodies.
There's a step between the revenge and and the dead body. There's got to be somebody finding the dead body. We need more finding body movies.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I thought I was going to be clever and have this as my answer for the first one because I didn't think either of you would. But to be fair, like I truly think this is the foundational title, and not only because of people potentially being squeamish if they're entering into it, but this is literally like one of the best adaptations, in my opinion, of his novels. It's fairly close to the source material. It's kind of indicative of his writing style overall because it's a group of kids and you get that dynamic. You get the bullying dynamic, which is a part of many of his stories. You get the macabre and the dead body and, the interactions with the parents at the beginning and kids being forced into more adult situations than they normally would be. And based on that, I think this is a really great first entry into this entire list. And honestly, I think it's a little more mature than most people even think it is. And when you hear about the synopsis, or if you haven't seen it in 20 years, it's pretty fucking great and pretty damn adult.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What is your choice for foundational title for this?
Well, given that I've never seen Stand By Me, so there you go. First off, I can't wax rhapsodically about it the way y'all can, so just putting that out there. That's why I'm not picking it. I didn't know what to pick here because it's not that I don't have a dog in the fight, but Erica, you put it pretty succinctly. For the most part, Stephen King's novels aren't great. I'm much more a fan of his short stories, and then his short story adaptations are most of the adaptations that people know for Stephen King are his novels, not his short stories. Mm-hmm. And so just to get out in front of that ahead of time by just acknowledging that, I think my answer here may be, speaking of kind of the obvious answers, because again, Stand By Me, not an obvious answer to me, but I've never seen it. But judging by his, and you guys will like this, judging by his Rotten Tomatoes meter, there's clearly one answer here. It's only higher by 1% by the movie that Erica picked, which sounds like it may be the one that Ryan was contemplating. I think you would both agree, though, it touches on similar topics and ideas to Stand By Me, at least from what I have gleaned from what y'all are talking about. 1976's Carrie, I think, is pretty good. There are dead kids. Teenagers, I guess. Children.
Teenagers don't count.
Yeah, okay. So dead John Travolta. How's that? Dead teenagers, maybe not dead kids, but and it's directed by Brian De Palma. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty faithful adaptation of the book. It's well directed, it's well acted. Sissy Spacek's great. And it has a jump ending, has Piper Laurie in it. I think it's fine. I think it's a good movie. Is it my favorite Stephen King movie? No, but I think it's one that touches on similar ideas to Stand By Me, gets to the core of, I think, what Stephen King is kind of always talking about with a certain kind of story that he writes, and it's well directed, well written, well acted. Can you really ask for more than that? No.
Well, and it's an intro to that supernatural side that Erica alluded to.
And it's a little bit, right? It's like the Shining levels of supernatural, which is to say, like, we're not going to really explain it, but it's there. Like, okay.
I also like how it's a supernatural side that needs no effects. You literally just stare, but really dramatically.
It's like an episode of the fucking Twilight Zone. Just, okay, scary. I think it's good. I would not say the same about the remake, which is unfortunate because while Ryan, I know you like to say every movie is someone's favorite movie, I don't know if that is.
Why are we harping on that statement all of a sudden?
I don't know. Because sometimes I have a hard time believing it when we're talking about a remake of Carrie with Chloe Grace Moretz and Julianne Moore. But
two incredible actresses. Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But I think the original is. I think the original is definitely worth checking out. And I didn't say The Shining because I think The Shining is. We'll probably talk about it. So that's where I am leaving it. Ryan, what about you?
Well, I mean, I'm going to lean into Stand By Me, but I really want to hear Erica's thoughts on Carrie, too, because Eric and I have not talked about most of these films before, so I'm just dying to hear her thoughts on everything.
I love Carrie, and honestly, that would have been my runner-up pick for an entry point, because, again, it doesn't have too much of a supernatural element. You know, it's the telekinesis, which is like... I don't know. I've never actually seen it happen, but that seems more likely than fucking ghosts or whatever. But no, it's one of my favorite adaptations of his, if not my favorite adaptations of his. And I just think it's like Chris said, it's close to the source material, but. I mean, I named my dog Piper after Piper Laurie. Like, I love her in that movie so much. So,
she's great.
Yeah, I would stand by that. Like, again, that was my backup pick. So,
my mom is probably going to watch this, and she has told me that she does not remember this. But when I was 6 or 7 years old, my mom put on Carrie with me in the living room, knowing that I was going to be there to watch it. And man, did that mess me up for a couple months. Love this movie, always have. I think De Palma's a master. And to be fair, I think we kind of crafted the perfect, dual foundation here, because if somebody's not a fan of supernatural stuff, you go Stand By Me. If you are interested in the supernatural stuff, Carrie is kind of the perfect gateway. And not only that, it's the first adaptation. It's the first book that he got out there. Mm-hmm. It's like the literal foundation of what was to come from him. And because of that, for a lot of people, and I'm sure as Erica's put her first book out there, you might be able to attest to this, that first book has the most put into it, the most lead up time. Usually it's the one that they've been struggling and perfecting for years to get into everybody's hands. And based on that, if this was one of his lesser books, we probably would not be talking about him if that was the first one that he put out there. Carrie being able to stand the test of time is the only reason we have more than 50 adaptations to discuss tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. One of our questions that people look at as potentially the most difficult to discuss. Erica, could you recommend a lesser known title in this list of adaptations, which again might not be a great first time watch, but is still a really great film?
Yeah. So I've got two here. I've got one classy, one trashy. So
I love it.
The first one is something I saw at Fantastic Fest a few years ago called Timekeepers of Eternity. This is an experimental film from a director from Greece, I believe. He took the TV movie or miniseries, whatever you want to call it, The Langoliers. He cut it down to 64 minutes and added black and white collage animation to it. This was one of my favorite films that I saw at Fantastic Fest that year. It completely changes how the story is told, but somehow keeps the central idea from the original in 1/3 of the time, but in an abstract way. Folks out here making 2.5 hour fucking Terrifier movies, they could learn a few things from something like this.
Shots fired. Day the goddamn trailer comes out for the third one and everything.
Oh, yeah. It was on top of mind. I saw that thing and I was like, God damn it. How long is this one? 3 hours?
3.5 hours of Art the Clown backstory and mythology that everybody wanted.
Yeah, we need the backstory, of course. But and what's amazing to me is this is the director's first, and I wouldn't even call it like a feature-length film. It's just over 60 minutes, but all he's got is other short films. So he's got one other animated film. It's about it's only 6 minutes. It's about the theoretical porn collection of Kafka. So that's fun. So that's my classy one, my trashy one, and I don't know if this is necessarily like the deepest cut, but it is certainly underseen. And I beat the drum for this movie whenever I get the chance. And it was honestly, it's the whole reason I picked this topic so I could talk about this movie as Children of the Corn 3. People who have listened to me on enough podcasts have heard me talk about this fucking movie. Now, Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest. I have seen all of the films in this series, including the latest one that came out a couple years ago. And the problem, and I guess this sort of gets back to your other question earlier, Ryan, about like, what are some ones that are like beloved and you don't like? Well, the original Children of the Corn, it's just so mediocre to me. Like, it has some memorable moments, but ultimately it's just fine. Part 2 is fun. I'll give it that. And my co-host Lance will argue with me that that's the best one in the series, but I'm going to die on the hill for Part 3. Like, I don't want to die for a Children of the Corn movie, but if I have to, I'm going to die on the Part 3 hill. So ranking them, I'd go 3 to the short film Disciples of the Crow, the first one, and then collectively all the rest. Just bubble them all up and spit them out somewhere else. You got 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, Runaway, Revelations, remakes, all that. They're all equally terrible. It is. There's something about
the fact that there are so many is just fucked beyond that. They were making them from 1984 until now, but technically 1984 to 2018 is a little much.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I don't know. There's something about Part 3 in a series where, it just does something right. Like, a lot of them go off the rails and have the most memorable entry for them. Not Hellraiser. That just went in a weird direction and wasn't great. But they just, you have the first one that makes money. The second one's an immediate cash in. And then by the third, they feel like they can go a little bit wild, a little bit punk. Sometimes they change the formula. You look at Halloween 3, even Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Friday the 13th Part 3, Mr. Vampire
Part 3.
The 3D one I don't love. Part 2 is the one that does it for me in that series. But
the better one.
Isn't 3 the one with the priest and the hand that shoots out of the thing? Is that the third one or the second one?
That's the third.
That's the third one. That's the 3D one. But like, even like House, like I don't even like the first and second one really, but House 3, aka the horror show, that one goes off the rails. It's great.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, Children of the Corn Part 3, Urban Harvest. Check it out.
What a rousing rally call for everybody to go check out only a couple of the long running series. Fully agree. The first one is just kind of boring compared to the third one.
Yeah.
And I don't like most of the other ones, but I'm still stuck. What was the title of the classy film again? Timekeepers
of Eternity.
Is there anywhere to see that? That sounds fucking amazing.
No, I actually looked on Letterboxd. I think it was on Netflix for like a short run a year or two ago. It doesn't have a physical release yet. Yeah, I saw it at Fantastic Fest and I was like, holy shit, this is great. Yeah.
I hope it's not something anyone has ever said about the Langoliers, to be fair.
No.
Exactly. I'm like, at first I was like, it's a what of the, he did the Langoliers? What? And I was so confused, but then a bunch of people at the festival saw it. And the good thing about Fantastic Fest is like you have first half, second half. So you can start, first half if someone, people are seeing certain movies and like people you trust on Letterboxd, I only have a few, then people were giving this 4 stars, and I was like, holy shit, I'm going to check this out. And yeah, it was amazing.
Wow. It sounds incredible.
It is.
Definitely eager to see this one. Chris, what about you? What is one of these that you think fly under everybody's radar that would be a good second watch for somebody?
Well, first off, I'm very disappointed to learn that nobody likes the movies that are set in Nebraska. How dare you? I'm just kidding. The first Children of the Corn movie is beyond fucking boring. I don't even understand what there is to like about it. It's just boring.
Malachi! Like that's...
Outlander! Yeah, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't understand why the adults just didn't punch the kids in the face. Like, they're just kids. Like, just grab them, pick them up, and throw them. Like, I don't understand. They don't weigh very much. See, this is the thing. So, we've talked about this before. Like, Stephen King is someone who I have an immense amount of respect for, but he doesn't know how to end a book.
No.
At all. And a lot of his movies suffer from the fact that his books don't know how to end. And this, and we've already, I think, Erica, you may have already mentioned it in passing. This is, for me, the Stephen King adaptation, because not only does it take the story that Stephen King had, but I think it makes it better. And I wouldn't suggest anybody go check this out immediately unless you've already seen it or unless you want to have a real bad evening, because it's probably going to put you in a real bad mood at the end. Some people, it doesn't put me in a bad mood. I'm not going to say it makes me laugh, but like it's definitely not uplifting as an ending. But 2007's The Mist, I think it might be my favorite thing that's been adapted of Stephen King's, period. And the ending is pretty funny. I mean, it's pretty fucked up, but it's like, I mean, like, you've got to know when Frank Darabont was sitting there and writing it, he's like, oh boy,
yep,
this is going to be good. Like, because like, that's the thing, you know, like the audience seeing it is one thing, but it had to come from somebody's mind. And Darabont sitting there writing that script, like, you know, he was just thinking to himself, like, boy, I'm going to make some people real mad with this one. And that's fine, because the novella is okay, but the novella is a good starting place for where Frank Darabont ends up taking it. And I'll go as far as to say, I think it's the best Frank Darabont adaptation of a Stephen King thing. I think it's better. I wasn't a huge fan of Shawshank or Green Mile. I would watch The Mist over both of those all day. I get it that they're very different kinds of movies, and The Green Mile and Shawshank are much more serious movies that are, you know, nominated for Academy Awards. It's not Tom Jane blowing his brains out at the end of the movie. I get it. But that's more what I'm here for with Stephen King. Like, I don't, it's not that I don't think Stephen King can write a heartwarming story, but I don't care about Hearts in Atlantis. I don't care about The Green Mile, and I don't care about The Shawshank Redemption. I just don't. They're just not things that motivate me. And so when I think of Stephen King and his adaptations that are the ones that I would prefer to watch, but could not in good conscience suggest someone watch out of pocket, it would be The Mist. Followed closely probably by 1408, which is a movie I actually enjoy way more than I think most people even remember that it existed. So, and it came out the same year as The Mist, but they didn't pull the trigger on the like bad ending for that movie. Instead, they had to give it the happy Hollywood ending, which is horseshit. So, yeah, like, and I remember seeing The Mist in 1408 the same summer and thinking to myself, like, oh, so this is how you just don't give a shit and just do whatever you want, versus like being required to make it that so that John Cusack survives in the end. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Thoughts on The Mist, Erica?
I love this movie. I do. It's one of the few movies from this century that I do really like, and not just for the ending. I know what people are thinking. I actually prefer the black and white version of it. Like, I think it makes it an even better movie than it already is. I think it's just a great, like, boiler, you know, just fucking boiler. What's the phrase I want? I'm brain fried. Anyway, sticking a bunch of people in there and like just things going.
Oh, a bottle episode.
Yeah. But like, you know, the monsters are fun in it. You know, it's just, it's one of those.
They're not overly explained.
Yeah. And that's my, another peeve I have with so many movies is like, we have to explain things because people are dumb. And it's like,
I can tell, but I'm with you 100%. Like, I think taking the ambiguity out of things is beyond unconscionable. Like, what's the point then? Mm-mm. What's the point? Like, oh, Darth Vader was just a kid at one point. Cool. I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. No, but I love it. Great pick.
I am, first off, got to say it saddened that nobody said Mrs. Carmody yet, because she is maybe the best villain in any of these stories. And I love her in The Mist because she is so hateable. But the other thing, like, I am yearning for the day that Frank Darabont, after his whole Walking Dead shit show fiasco where he got ousted for no reason, comes back to filmmaking, because I loved his stuff for so long. I would love to see him come back and do something amazing again like The Mist and just shock the hell out of everybody. He was great.
Yeah, it was a shame that he got kicked off The Walking Dead, but that show sucks now. So, yeah, you know.
Oh
I mean,
God,
it's not being good after. Yeah, isn't it?
There's like 4 spin-offs. I don't even know if the original is still going, but yeah, they've done like 3 other shows.
Oh God.
I wanted to throw another one in here, and this is going to be the exact opposite of Chris's, because it completely falls apart at the end. Chris's is the redemptive film compared to the book at the end, and I completely agree. But I had to go and give some love to the one that I mentioned at the beginning, Mike Flanagan. And for some reason, in 2017 and 2019, Netflix kind of came out of nowhere and did a few Stephen King adaptations, which weren't awful. And I really want to talk about 2017's Gerald's Game. Did you see Gerald's Game, Erica?
Yeah, I did actually. I think I was like house sitting and they had Netflix and I was like, I'll watch this.
Do you remember it much? Were you happy with it?
I don't remember it much. I don't remember hating it. So that's always a good thing.
That's a positive.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know much about Gerald's Game, for the longest time, this one was looked at as the, quote, unadaptable Stephen King film. And this is the first time that it was tackled. And essentially it's the story of a man and a woman that go to a cabin in the middle of a forest, and they've been having marital problems. And this is their attempt at, bringing that spark back to the relationship. And they're getting intimate, and he literally dies on top of her in the middle of nowhere. So she can't escape. She's handcuffed to the bed, and there is now this journey for survival. And of course, lots of crazy things happen. There's a really gnarly gore scene in this movie that you don't expect if you've not read the story. Unfortunately, the ending is kind of bunk. It's not real great. The way that it was filmed, I bet Netflix had something to say about ending this one this way. I still think it's a great movie overall, and the best thing is this movie is acted incredibly well. And for a story like this, you're literally seeing one person carry 85% of this film. So if they're not great, this is going to fall apart. And I think this would probably be a really grueling first time watch if you've not seen any of the other Stephen King adaptations, and you'd probably be like, yeah, I don't really want to see many others after this if this is what they're all like. But if this is a second or third step into it, you might be fairly excited, because it is a pretty good adaptation of a very difficult story to tell on the screen, I think.
We got to give props to Mike Flanagan for continuing to give Henry Thomas work.
He absolutely does that in just about everything.
I love Henry Thomas. He's great. But it's just like, of all the people, Mike Flanagan just being like, you just want to like be part of my troupe of people for the next decade plus.
Well, and the other ones, I mean, Kate Siegel's in this, his wife, Carla Gugino, Bruce Greenwood, those of all.
Kate Siegel's guaranteed to be in Mike Flanagan's stuff at this point, is she
but
not?
The others, they were all in his most recent miniseries that he did for Netflix. So yeah, they're all, it's basically just his group of friends going out and making pretty great stories. Yeah. It's a good way to go about it. This next question, I feel like for Stephen King, is kind of obvious, but I would love to hear the way that all three of us are going to explain this. So, Erica, what is the biggest impact that Stephen King adaptations have had on pop culture overall? Now, again, does not have to be like a specific film. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be something like inspiring other filmmakers. It can be invigorating a genre. It can be killing a lot of kids on screen, whatever you want it to be.
I mean, yeah, obviously the answer for me is, look at all those kids he killed. But I mean, bigger than that, like, our modern concept of celebrity is so hyper-focused on actors and actresses for the most part, and like, pop singers and whoever. But Stephen King has managed to sort of carve himself a little, his own celebrity niche over here. And like the adaptations of his films could very well lead people to reading more books, because they're like, oh, I liked Carrie, I'm going to go, finally read the book. I don't know. Like, I don't think kids really read anymore. I don't think they fucking watch movies anymore. But I do think that like him having, he's got a huge, fan base. He's just a fucking nerd, and it's like, but he's still a celebrity, and like, he's got this sort of outlet for adaptations of his films, and I'm sure he's making a lot of money, and he's using his celebrity and these, to a certain extent, like the adaptations that are being made from it are giving him more of that, to be like a good person. He's an animal advocate, and like, he trashes trashy people on social media. He's not a fucking shitbag transphobe like some authors are. So,
other immensely successful adapted authors, you mean?
Yeah. So I just think like, even if his writing isn't great, I think he's a good person. And the fact that like a nerd has managed to like be that successful, and in like a celebrity sort of spotlight, and have these adaptations, which could in turn lead people to hopefully reading more, I think is good. But mostly dead kids.
Not to mention a nerd that could do that much cocaine.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, he's, whew.
I love that it took 50 minutes to be able to say the word cocaine for the first time on this episode.
Let me spend it 51 minutes to now say the next thing. Kid gangbang. Okay, now we've mentioned all the Stephen King stuff, right? Okay.
Can I just say the number of times that people bring up, like, it is not a great adaptation because they're never going to film the gangbang. It is so weird that people on the internet are clamoring for that. Do you not understand what that's saying about you publicly?
These are the same people that go to Pornhub.
And watch, so I guess they don't live in Utah?
Yeah, or in Missouri, or Nebraska, or Texas, or any place for that matter.
Way to call all three of us out.
Do people get disappointed by that not being in the adaptation?
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
No.
What?
Yes, it is an awful, awful world. But to change the subject away from that, Chris, what is your answer for what is the biggest impact that Stephen King adaptations have had on pop culture?
I mean, I think he's just made the world of horror a lot more accessible to a lot more people that never would have seen it otherwise. But I think that's just the way adaptations work. I mean, like you already alluded to, Erica, like people don't read enough as it is. People aren't engaging with various kinds of media anymore. They're engaging with one singular kind of media, which is more than likely short form media on your phone. Mm-hmm. And, there was a time where Stephen King's books were like the hottest thing to adapt. And I'm not saying that's not the case anymore. I mean, we've essentially gotten a adaptation of Stephen King's works once a year for like the last 30, 40 years. I mean, it's only been like 1 or 2 years have gone by without one. And most of the time we make up for it because, while there weren't any adaptations in 2016 and 2018, there were 4 in 2017 and 3 in 2019. So it's like, holy shit, look, the reality is nobody modern author-wise has been adapted as many times as he has, which means that's a positive thing, like you said, Erica, for people going out there and actually having an interest being shown to them in terms of whether or not reading is a thing worth doing. However, I just think in terms of Stephen King's adaptations of world of pop culture, it's introduced the world of pop culture to some of the characters who now you go to Spirit Halloween and they've got Pennywise stuff hanging off the rafters and Shining stuff all over the place. And it's like, look, where does that come from? That comes from Stephen King's books being adapted, not people reading the books. And like, I'm not going to say that people don't read books and then, manifest and create things off of the books, but like those people are real big nerds like me. That like, there's no physical adaptation of something, but they love it anyways. Like there are plenty of book series that have never been adapted into anything. and people still love them just as much as books that have been adapted into things. So I think it's just opening up the world of Stephen King's stories to a broader audience, which, like you mentioned, Erica, makes the man a hell of a lot more money than if he didn't. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of, a real effect on pop culture, like Stephen King is the most adapted modern author. What else is there really to say? Like, that's a pretty big deal. And it's not for as much as I don't like the way his stories end, it's not because he doesn't have a good fucking hook. Because if anything, he knows how to write a hook. He knows how to write the first 100 pages of a book. I'll give him that. Beyond that, I don't know. His short stories are what resonates with me. I love the collection of short stories more than I think I love any one of his singular, complete narratives. But I don't think that there's any really one big thing. I think it's just introducing the world broadly to the world of Stephen King and what he does as an author, which I'm not saying he does it any better than anybody else. I think he's just more marketable because you already mentioned Dean Koontz, Erica, and I read Dean Koontz's Frankenstein, and I loved the shit out of that, but it was some trashy garbage. But I liked it. Like, I enjoyed it immensely, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, people would like that more than they would like The Dome, and it's like, that was not the case. So, or what was the one with, there's an adaptation, 11/2/63, is that the James Franco one? Like, all of those things are, those are all things that people were scrounging around looking for things to adapt to Stephen King. That's what the reality of all this is Stephen King's best stuff has already been, his best, biggest stuff has already been adapted. And at this point, anybody's just remaking it. I mean, look at what happened with It. Look at Children of the Corn and Firestarter and, all the Salem's Lot for that matter. Like, I don't know. Stephen King is just the most marketable horror writer on the planet. And then his adaptations kind of fall into the same suit. Like, they're big budget studio movies for the most part. At least they have been recently, which it's not a bad thing. It's just not necessarily what I'm personally interested in anymore as someone watching horror movies in 2024.
Yeah, you mentioned the Halloween store decorations and stuff like that, and you mentioned Pennywise, and I was like, oh, you know what else he contributed? I think he got a generation of kids scared of clowns. So there's one cultural impact.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Again, there was it was like a 5-year span where it was like unavoidable. Mm-hmm. And Pennywise was like unavoidable, and Daddy Wise and all the other things. Like, I mean, just like the internet took to Pennywise in a way that, like, of course they did. But yeah, I guess if you want to say like the biggest immediate impact would be, making, I used to hear all my friends be like, the original It's so scary. I'm like, really? Is it though? Have you fucking seen it? Like,
it's not on a rewatch, but it was when I was a kid. Right. Tim Curry, that clown, I was like, good fucking God. I'm not scared of clowns now, but like at the time I was like, it's a clown, but it's terrifying. So.
Right.
I was trying to rack my brain on this one for a while, and funny enough, I ended up with like a combination of both of your answers here. And I think one thing that we should shout out and give some extra props to him for, my answer for this one is the Dollar Babies. The fact that for a while he was offering licensing to his stories for literally only $1. He would retain all of the rights, but he would allow somebody to adapt them. And most of these, most people have never seen. However, this is where we got Frank Darabont. This is where Guy Maddin even was one of the filmmakers that made one of these. And just the idea that somebody could hear that this was happening and be inspired to become a filmmaker. There's a lot of people that started down the path of writing these before they like tried to go through this program that he was doing, and it made them blossom literally into real filmmakers. And so just the idea of him being a good person and a good steward with his money and not being greedy like a lot of the other fucks out there. He made other people step up and say, I want to do my own thing and be creative and use his story and my vision and make something exciting out of it. And I guarantee you a lot of the modern horror filmmakers that are out there, and not just modern, but the last 25, 30 years, there's a lot of people that started because this program was out there and they were just on pins and needles being able to jump out there and buy something for $1.
Yeah. And if not for the goddamn pandemic, Father Malone and I had paid for the Dollar Baby. We sent him the $1. We had the contract and everything. And then the pandemic happened. And then he stopped doing it. And it was like, oh, good. Oh, good. So, yeah, Father Malone and I, who was a guest on this show, may have been two of the last group of people that were like still allowed to do it, because we did it fall of 2019, spring of 2020. I still have all the emails and everything. Like, it's such a bummer. But the Dollar Babies, like, yeah. I mean, none of them really, not none of them, but far and few between did any of them really go anywhere.
Right.
But the fact that there is an author out there who is as prolific as he is, just being like, well, I've got these handful of stories I don't really fucking care about. It's like, wait a second, what? Like, who's doing this? Oh, Stephen King is okay. Got it. Makes sense. He has such a extensive backlog of stuff. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Unfortunately, yes, it disbanded as of December 2023, and that whole program is gone. But yeah, it was great while it lasted.
Sure was.
This is our last moment to shout out other titles or anything that has not gotten any airtime. Anything else that you really want to highlight that are on your list of you might have loved to talk about it there, Erica?
I mean, I remember really liking Pet Sematary as a kid, and I revisited it, and I was like, I do love Fred Gwynne. I saw the remake, and as much as I love John Lithgow, just no. But yeah, I know it's another one of those like insensitive, like, oh, Indian burial ground type things where it's like, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Native American burial ground just doesn't roll off the tongue. I get it.
Indigenous people doesn't have that ring to it, does it? Huh?
Yeah.
The first people's burial ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and this will tie into like the last question that y'all do. And I think The Running Man is like one of my favorites because I love Arnold. I love that era of Arnold. So like that's one of my
words
favorites.
Right out of my mouth, Erica. God damn it. It's like the best Stephen King adaptation, really. I'm pretty sure it's like the best one.
Oh, you're gonna like my recommendation.
I hope so. If you ask me the same question, Ryan, The Running Man is the answer.
I'm not going to ask you. So my answer for
well, fuck you then. Okay, you don't want me to say the other man movie, The Lawnmower Man?
Let's have you talk about Running Man and whatever else you would like. Go right ahead.
Oh, I mean, Running Man's good. The end.
Okay.
Eric already said it. Like, it's not a Stephen King thing at all. Like,
right.
It's not even a Stephen King book. Like, it's a Bachman book, and Bachman books are very different. Like, they're not. I mean, you mentioned The Long Walk already, Erica. That's a Bachman.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bachman, I mean, like, obviously it is still Stephen King, but I don't know. Bachman stuff always strikes me as more of like Two-Fisted Tales, while Stephen King is more Tales from the Crypt. Like, it's, Bachman stuff is a little, not action, but it's a little more socially, like the original Running Man story has nothing to do with that movie, which is fine. I mean, whatever. But like, what it's actually about has nothing to do with the movie. But yeah, Bachman, I like Bachman stuff. It's just very, 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 very different, which is why I couldn't in good conscience mention The Running Man up until this point, because it's not a Stephen King thing.
Thinner is Bachman too, I think, right?
I think it was, but I think it's like, if you bought a new copy of it, I think it's Stephen King now.
Got it.
I think. I could be wrong. Someone will go in comments and be like, well, actually, at me. That's fine.
The only other one that I was going to say that you guys have not brought up yet, I don't know if I'm the only big fan of it in the room, but I adore Misery. Nearly a perfect movie. I think that it's obviously a part of Rob Reiner's like crazy streak that he went on that most other filmmakers would die to be on. But I mean, the fact that we have these two masters of film literally carrying the entire story is exciting and well done. And, there's the ankle scene, which is awful. But as somebody that's lived through multiple foot surgeries, Misery has hit home for me very much over the last 5 years. So I love this movie, and Kathy Bates is an incredible villain in this. Our final question then, a cinematic bridge to Stephen King adaptations. Anything that you would say if someone liked X, they would like the Stephen King adaptations?
Oh, me first? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a few here. So because King stuff is kind of all over the place, I think at their core, they're always about the characters. So another genre, and I know, well, we kind of talked about this before, like King movies aren't technically a genre, but you could call them a micro genre, if you will. There's so many of them you could. But I think made-for-TV horror seems like almost a perfect fit or a perfect bridge, almost a primer before getting into King. So, I know plenty of his adaptations were TV movies or series, so it works. But, something like Gargoyles, Midnight Hour, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, I think would all be sort of good examples as a bridge there. Chris, you mentioned Two-Fisted Tales. That's another one. Like, I think everyone is always focused on Creepshow, rightfully so. But, there's the lesser known, I wouldn't call it a film. They basically just took 3 segments of Two-Fisted Tales and turned it into a movie, and it's got William Sadler in the wraparound for it. So
screaming in a wheelchair the whole time.
So, I think that one's worth people checking out if they're a fan of the Creepshow films. And then getting back to The Running Man, I know, it's technically Bachman, but if you like The Running Man, but if you want something a little bit more, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it, elevated or cinematic, I guess, there is a French film that came out in 1983, 4 years before The Running Man, with an identical premise, and it's called The Prize of Peril, or Le Prix du Danger, or Danger. I can't say it in French. I'm sorry. The Prize of Peril. It's really fucking good.
That sounds fantastic.
It is.
All right, Chris, what do you got for us? What's a cinematic bridge to Stephen King adaptations?
I think Erica kind of already touched on what my answer is. Like, if I'm willing to sit here and concede that the best Stephen King things are his short stories, I would go as far as to say something like Tales from the Dark Side is a pretty good bridge, because that's like the best stuff that he's done in a lot of ways. Like, it's his short stories or short stories adjacent to his own that are being adapted for the right medium, which is a 20-minute medium, as opposed to taking what is it? Is it a Matheson, the box, the Richard Matheson story, and then turning it into an entire movie 2 or 3 times now? It's like, we don't need a 30-page short story, or even less than that, to be a 2-hour-long movie. And I think for me, Stephen King's stuff, his adaptations work best when they are the short stories being adapted in an anthology setting or, framework. And I think that Tales from the Dark Side is a good example. And I think that, anthology, like Erica said, anthology horror, I think is a good entry space to Stephen King. I mean, again, look, I would find it hard to believe in 2024 that you have not seen a Stephen King thing, or at least have not been exposed to Stephen King in some form or fashion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would find that hard to believe. So I would think in terms of like the best bridge to Stephen King would be, think of the most mainstream horror thing you can think of. It might just be a Stephen King thing as it is. Like, I mean, the most mainstream horror movie in the last decade is those fucking It movies. And those are Stephen King movies. Like, I don't know. Does Stephen King need a bridge to him? Is maybe what I'm getting at. Maybe that's my point here. Does Stephen King need our help? No. Because we talked about the movies. There's all the TV show adaptations and everything else. Like, there's so much of his stuff that's been adapted.
Yeah.
It's like, I would find it hard if you hadn't seen a Stephen King thing, period. So again, there are bridges to him, but I think he's kind of so ubiquitous. It's almost like, does this guy need our help?
Yeah, I don't think he needs our help. And I think the way that I interpreted this question was that it's a bridge from King to something else. And so I think like all the examples you gave make the most sense. I agree. I don't think anyone really needs a bridge to King. He's in your face. He's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean,
I think
the amount of stuff at Spirit is his, so much of the stuff at Spirit is his stuff. It's like, he can't escape it.
Yeah. I think if anything, it's just overwhelming to try to understand like getting back to the first question, like, where's the entry point? Like, where do I start?
Right.
You know, that might be the struggle for somebody. But even then, it's like, how have you not seen anything by him yet? Like, surely you have. So
I would find it hard to believe that someone could have gone, at least an 18 or 19-year-old would have gone this long without seeing something Stephen King, given the ubiquitous nature of it at this point. But what about you, Ryan?
Obviously, that is correct. He probably doesn't need one. However, I was mostly going to say essentially what you just said, Chris, was any, and not even just anthology horror, but almost just any anthology film, because he's written in so many different genres. It's not just horror. He's got straight dramas. He's got coming-of-age stories. He's got a lot of comedic elements in a lot of these. And so literally anything from the old Amicus anthologies to... I hesitate to ever recommend this, but Twilight Zone the movie, it feels like a very obvious similarity to some of his short stories, but in the sad identifying, like, the analysis of the ending of his films, anthology is kind of where it's at, because he does seem to have a lot of the establishing characters written well, and then they don't know how to put a conclusion at the end of a great story. And so a lot of anthologies are literally done to kind of take away some of those problems. And it's a really great comparison to what he's done, especially when you start looking at the novellas, because it's all short already. Like that is the perfect example for what he does. And some of his most well-known stuff are miniseries adaptations or literal anthologies like Creepshow. And it just tends to work well with his style of writing and the adaptation of that writing.
We didn't even mention Creepshow, really, which is kind of shocking that it's been an hour and 10 minutes and we haven't mentioned Creepshow. But I think Creepshow is probably up there because, again, it's just, it's Romero and Stephen King together. Like, do you need more than that? Like,
right.
There are no two people working right now that if you had them working together the way Romero and Stephen King, where you'd be like, this is going to be worth something to see. Like, maybe there is, but not with the level of, like, mainstream notoriety. I would actually say this might be kind of a pedantic example, but Stephen King, a bridge to Stephen King stuff is like Spielberg stuff at its, like, darkest, because, again, like, it's just the most mainstream, easy to digest. Like, Stephen King stuff is not hard to digest at all. Like, even the child gangbang of it all, like, I mean, like, but that was cocaine fueled, right? Like, we all can sit here and, like, 100% acknowledge that was Stephen King not at a good time in his life, just writing to write because apparently Pennywise was chasing after him in his brain about writing or something. I don't know why you would write 1,500 words about a clown, but okay. But I mean, again, it's like the main points of that story feel like a Steven Spielberg story. Like, it's about family and growing up and coming of age. You guys mentioned Stand By Me. We talked about Carrie. Like, Spielberg's in that same wheelhouse of, like, ultimately at the end of the day, it's about family. And it's about, like, the ties that bind us. A lot of Stephen King's, I mean, think of something even as, like, kind of awful as Cell. Like, the story of Cell is ultimately about a father trying to save his son from turning into a cell phone zombie, which is just the stupidest fucking thing possible. But I mean, my point is, like, I think Stephen King's stuff is so easy to digest that I mean, just think of the most next best, easiest to digest. Are your fur children going apeshit over there?
Yeah, sorry.
It's just funny.
Like, doing a in the corner.
I just think that Spielberg's stuff is as easy to digest as Stephen King's in terms of, like, who it's being made for. And I think that they both know that. Does Steven Spielberg have as much hand in his stuff the way Stephen King does? No, but Steven Spielberg does. It's just he's not necessarily getting credit the way Stephen King is. But I think Steven Spielberg stuff is a good example. And I don't know if Stephen King would agree, but I didn't write about child gangbang, so what does my opinion matter?
I don't know that Steven Spielberg could do a Maximum Overdrive.
I don't know.
I mean, he did his own version with Duel, but
I guess I was going to say, I guess that might be Duel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good call. I think they both write in a very similar fashion, make it so everybody can ingest it, and it's easy to understand.
And that's why it makes so much money. Like, that's why, because it's not, even like with some, I mean, again, like again, not to keep bringing it up, but like the reason that scene is not in it is so that it is for a more mainstream audience. There's no mainstream audience that would go into it if they knew that there was that whole, this is the thing that nobody wanted. There's no universe where anybody would go and show up in droves the way that they did. And so it's, they need to even take the more unsavory elements of King's stuff and boil them out anyways, just to make sure that like this is the most approachable mainstream horror possible. And for the longest time, Stephen King's stuff was, and it will continue to be. Look at where these movies are being made. Warner Brothers, Sony, Universal, Lionsgate, Paramount. They're not being made by dickhead down the street. I mean, they're not. These are big budget Hollywood movies. So, I mean, even the one that comes out next year, that's Osgood Perkins and Neon, right? Like, there's the level at which these movies are being adapted should speak volumes to which the ubiquitousness of the person writing them. Let's put it that way.
All right. All that being said, Stephen King is great. Watch some of the movies if you haven't, but you probably already have. So, Erica, now that we've said all that, where can people find you if they want to hear you talk about dead kids and other fun things on the internet?
I mean, I only get to talk about dead kids if the movie we're covering on Unsung Horrors has one, but Unsung Horrors is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then I'm at Hex Massacre on Letterboxd, Instagram, and I don't know about Twitter. I think once I sell out the book, I'm going to get off finally because I hate it there. I really do. That's where you can find me. Like Ryan said at the beginning, I think by the time this comes out, the books will be gone. I will be again, I don't know when this is coming out, but I will be at Fantastic Fest this year for the Fantastic Feud. So if you are going to that fest, if you can, make a note to go to the Feud and watch me humiliate myself because I am terrible at trivia type situations. And I might have some copies of the book with me there. Wink, wink.
Amazing. Chris, what about you?
WeirdingWayMedia.com is where you can find all the stuff that I work on. There you go. All the podcast. I mean, that's it. All the podcast stuff that I work on can be found there. Nowhere else other than if you're liking, rating, and reviewing it on iTunes. But WeirdingWayMedia.com. What about you, Ryan?
Well, this is probably a good time to talk about work done with someone's favorite productions. I want to highlight a couple of titles that Erica has been on specifically. By the time that this comes out, you will be able to find some of her wares on some Terrorvision titles. Love the release of Mayhem that is going to be out eventually, I promise. Love that we were able to get you on Dreamstalker and the work that we're going to be doing on something that, because I don't know when this is coming, I can't say much about, but Erica, I know that I've said it before, but just publicly, you are one of my favorite people, and I'm so glad to be able to work with you on a lot of things that people won't even see yet by the time that this is out. So you're amazing, and I hope that you continue to do this great stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
This show is, of course, as Chris said, available everywhere that you get your podcast needs. Please go out there and give it a rating, review on iTunes specifically, and only if you're going to give it 5 stars.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.